Entonces, ¿es en español o en inglés? ¿Cómo
En inglés.
En inglés, ok.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jessica Jacob, and I'm a climate finance consultant expert. I would like to thank, first of all, the International Development Finance Club for hosting this event at COP26. We're going to speak today about how to fostering access to sustainable urban mobility through efficient low emissions transport, and particularly about the case of Costa Rica light rail transit project. I would like to welcome our honorable panelist members. We have today the First Lady of Costa Rica, Claudia Dobles, Javier Manzanares, Deputy Executive Director at the Green Climate Fund, and Miguel Mendez, Head of Partnerships and International Cooperation at the Central American Bank for Economic Integration. This session is going to be really interesting as we're going to highlight one of the most important transport projects at the Green Climate Fund and the Central American region. As you might all know, transport accounts for around 1/5 of the global carbon emissions. These emissions in Costa Rica linked to the transport sector contribute around 51% of the national total emissions, and is projected to increase by 44% by 2050. While Costa Ricans use private cars, like the majority of Latin American countries, this type of investments on smart, efficient transport sectors are really fundamental. The high-level panelists at this session will share with the audience this amazing example of the light rail transit for the greater metropolitan area of Costa Rica. This project aims to achieve a total of $1.9 billion with a contribution already approved by the Green Climate Fund for $271.3 million. The project aims to install an 85-kilometer double-track electric light rail train. This system in San Jose that will benefit the great metropolitan area of the capital in Costa Rica will be powered by 98% of renewable energy electricity. This also provides a strong opportunity of financing and construction for the role of the private sector. This initiative is intended to encourage behavior change towards an uptake of the use of public transport with non-motorized and transit-oriented developments in a smart city. It's good to highlight that it's not only about the construction of this efficient train. It's going to be also supplied by all a system of buses, bicycles that will connect the people and reach the train system. Last but not least, it's really important to highlight that this project has a true element of gender balance and inclusiveness. With that introduction, I would like to make some questions to our panel members, and then we will open for the audience in case they have follow-up questions. I would like to start today with Javier Manzanares, dear Deputy Executive Director at the Green Climate Fund. Could you please explain briefly to the participants and audience what is the GCF about and how relevant is transport for the GCF as one of the 8 impact or areas result of the GCF? We will also appreciate to hear from you on the relevance of this project in the region and for the world. As per our understanding and information in your website, more than half of the GCF resources allocated to transport has gone into this project? Javier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you for the introduction. True pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for the invitation, CABEI, First Lady of Costa Rica. And indeed, for the GCF, this has become a flagship project. We'll go into the details later. But Jessica was asking me to make a brief introduction on the Green Climate Fund. And the Green Climate Fund is precisely about financing projects to developing countries, to non-Annex 1 countries of the Convention. That's approximately 140 countries. And our mandate is to support projects that present compelling case for low emissions and that also promote resilient development growth of the non-Annex 1, the developing economies. Indeed, transport is one of our sector areas. The reason why I would describe this project, the light rail transit, as a flagship is because of the implication that it has within our portfolio. Transport is one of those sectors where the GCF has not truly been able to balance it out with the other sectors. Today, out of 190 projects approved by the GCF, that's for an amount of approximately $10 billion, only 5% have been allocated to transport. And it is actually both. It is nearly 5% in the number of projects, 9 out of 190, as well as on the US dollar amount basis. So it's only 5% of GCF's $10 billion portfolio that has been earmarked towards transport. So that's one of the main elements. The other one is because of the size of this light rail transit. We're talking about a contribution, an investment from the GCF of $271 million. That's a large size project even for the Green Climate Fund, right? And in terms of the sector itself, it is transport. It's a sector that is high risk, high cost, and in many occasions, it does require investments in new technologies that are not truly mature yet. So if you put that as one of the pillars, along with the fact that crowding in the private sector is also not a very easy assignment. So we have government participation. We have a structure that should encourage the private sector to finance. And we also have to add the risking instruments. So that's why this is flagship, because that's precisely what the GCF is about. And even more so, and this I can allude to the very strong leadership of the First Lady from day one. This LRT project for the Green Climate Fund also is part of that generation of projects that come from an investment done by the GCF on feasibility studies. So we were from day one with CABEI and the government of Costa Rica in partnership. We implemented a project preparation facility that would bring the pertinent feasibility on technical, financial, and climate risk vulnerability studies. That has created a robust case. So for, at the end of the day, CABEI to structure the project and have the GCF as one of the financiers. So that's another relevant element. And then when you go into the transport sector, Latin America has already a high level of leadership into the car ownership from the private sector. It does have also an important presence of the bus transit system. It's about 54 cities in Latin America that already have that bus transit system. Now, along with the light rail transit, it brings an additional element, a very compelling case for the public sector to be used. That with a very particular scenario, and that brings Costa Rica not only into the leadership of transit for Latin America, but on a worldwide basis. And I'll say why. Because one of the beauties of this project is the energy will be powered by a country that is generating approximately 98% of the energy through renewable sources. So in other words, we're talking about a clean grid that will be powering this light trail system. That's a very compelling case worldwide. So we congratulate both the government of Costa Rica as well as CABEI for this wonderful work that has been done with the GCF. And we hope that governments coming up, new governments in Costa Rica will also be supportive of this initiative. Over to you, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Javier, for your words. And it's outstanding to hear that just 5% of the number and amount of projects are going into the transport, knowing that, as mentioned at the beginning, almost a fifth of the emissions worldwide come from this sector. So let's hear now from the leading accredited entity at the Green Climate Fund, from CABEI, the Central American Bank for Economic Integration. Miguel Mendez, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for leading this project with a full team behind of you through the project preparation facility, as Javier mentioned, to a full funding proposal presented to the GCF. So we will like to hear from you on this paradigm shifting project. And the audience, I believe, it's really interesting to hear how the private sector joined this project. How did you make these investors come into the table for such a huge project in Costa Rica? For the GCF is really important, not only to benefit the public sector, but as well as we know for climate change, is fundamental to bring inside into the table the resources and co-financing the private sector. So we will appreciate if you can share how this private sector joined the table in the project, how other investors could still join, and at the end, if you could share with us other types of examples that CABEI is willing to undertake in the close future related to the transport sector. Miguel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jessica, and happy to be here to share CABEI's experience in this project, and of course in the future projects in the coming years. First of all, I would like to thank GCF and also the government of Costa Rica for trusting CABEI to participate as the leading financial institution to make possible this initiative. And this for us is a matter of proud, because as the main and most relevant multilateral bank in the region, and in a region that is highly vulnerable to climate change, for us this is the role that we want to play. Sorry, and this is mandated by our assembly. So coming back on the time, in 2016, our board of directors and the Governors Assembly instruct the CABEI team, the administration, to support the countries to channel resources to deal with the climate change challenges. And in that regard, we are proud to say that at this moment, 5 years after this, we are the leading organization, accredited entity organization, channeling resources from GCF to the region. So we already get approved for 4 operations, in which the Costa Rica one is one of them. And these account for 525.2 million US dollars, which is the highest amount of resources channeled to the region by any accredited entity. So then we are proud to set this and to share this with the world. Besides this, it's not only what we have been doing with GCF, but also what we do every day. So if we came back from 2016 to now, 41% of CABEI's operations are focused on climate change activities, meaning that for every $1 that we invest, 41 cents are focused on addressing climate change challenges in the region. So this is the highest that we have in the region as well. So this, and this is not only thing that we are doing. So also, as CABEI, we are focusing on the emissions of bonds. So then we are starting, and in the last 2 years, we already issue 1.4 billion US dollars in ESG bonds, which basically focus on green investments and also social investments. So, and then basically regarding the Costa Rica project, as you mentioned, the private sector for us is very important. Why? Because the challenges of investments are huge in the region, and only the public sector cannot afford that, especially after a crisis that we already have because of the pandemic. So in that regard, as you mentioned at the beginning, the project in total will cost around 1.9 billion US dollars. For this one, 273 million coming from GCF, 300 million coming from CABEI, but then $1.3 billion will come from private sector. And at that moment, there is a process to start all the identification of the concessionaire. And in that case, the floor is open for any companies that has experience on train constructions to participate and also to be part of the paradigm shift in the transportation system in Central America. So, and why this is important, this project? Because as you mentioned before, we mentioned before here, this project is a flagship project, not only for the investment that it is, but that it has, but also for the participation of private sector, and also because it's not only focused on the transport system, but also is focused on inclusion. Inclusion of the women, inclusion of the people with special capacities, among others. So this is a key issue on development. And one more thing which is important is that in the region, besides of this operation, so now many other countries are following this. And we are now preparing many feasibility studies that in the coming years will we concretize another project. For instance, we are working in trains, not only with the train in Costa Rica, but also another train in Costa Rica for cargo, yeah? Also, we are working in an operation in El Salvador, in Guatemala, and Dominican Republic. So this is the train system. So then we are promoting the train system here, the Central American integration through the train system that in this case started with the train in Costa Rica. Besides this, we are also making some investments on feasibility studies for electric cars, electric buses, especially for public transportation. In this case, we are in an operation in Guatemala, but also we are working in an operation in Honduras with a cable car in Tegucigalpa that will help the population to have a better and less polluted transport system for their daily life. So for us, it's very important as CABEI to continue doing this work. And in this case, CABEI reiterates its commitment to continue supporting its country members to address climate change. And in this case, we are supporting through channeling not also resources from us, but also from other partners, from the private sector, and other partners as GCF, KfW, and others that already supported CABEI and the region. So this is what we have so far, and we hope that in some years we will be here also talking about other projects, big projects, flagship projects in other countries in Central America. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Miguel. It's really important to highlight on your words and ambition of a Central American bank on how you're covering different countries, not only one, but you're scaling up those great experience to other countries. Hopefully one day, and taking advantage that the GCF has only financed 5% of their portfolio in transport, we as Latinos can maybe one day dream of having a train from Colombia all the way up to Mexico. No, we can see these kind of solutions in Europe. One day, maybe thanks to the GCF and the Central American Bank, we could see that dream come true. So now let's go to our Honorable First Lady of Costa Rica. It's a pleasure to have you here, First Lady. And first of all, we would like to congratulate you for this amazing project that it could be called one of the most innovative and paradigm-shifting projects in our region. It's great to see how Costa Rica is addressing climate change from this environmental and climate change perspective, but always taking under account the circular national economy and the sustainability of the projects. I remember well 2 years ago when you were in Korea, in Songdo, at the private conference of the Green Climate Fund, and you came with the team to really put that objective of achieving this project as soon as possible. So we will appreciate to hear from you how, with that great support and leadership that you took on this project, you made this dream come true for Costa Rica, and what type of lessons learned you could share with other countries and inspire them to become and true economies into a green and sustainable system. So we will appreciate to hear from you a little bit of the story, your leadership, and how you make this dream come true a true reality.
Thank you so much, Jessica. First of all, I would like to thank IDFC for hosting this event. Also, I would like to greet Mr. Javier Manzanares. It's always good to see you, Javier. Thank you so much for being here. And also, Don Miguel, thank you so much for all the support that CABEI has done, not only for this project, but actually we are working in several projects, and we are actually working in new initiatives in terms of transportation and how to move forward to zero-emission mobility. So thank you so much. I would like to say, the first thing I would like to say is that our decarbonization plan is divided in different sections and in different axes. So we can really have specific actions for these sectors that we can measure and that we can see that we are moving forward with the decarbonization plan. In Costa Rica, even though we have done with great success achievements in terms of biodiversity, in terms of nature-based solutions, the truth is that if we want to tackle and if we want to focus on the agreements that we have provided on the Paris Agreement and the agreements that we are reaching in these type of events, we need to tackle our urban agenda. In the case of Costa Rica, it's quite ironic, so to speak, that we have an electricity matrix mostly based on renewables, almost 100% based on renewables, but ironically our energy matrix is still based on fossil fuels, mostly because of our transportation system. So we really need to tackle this, this agenda, and this is very important in the case of Costa Rica. I think every country needs to prioritize based on their context. And in the case of Costa Rica, we have a huge potential, but we have also a huge challenge, cultural challenge. So that is the first thing. We provided the vision in the decarbonization plan. We provided different actions that we wanted to move forward, and we understood since the beginning that, first of all, this is not an administration's project. This is a country's project. This is not part of one administration, one group of people, but this is part of the country's development. And we really need to get on board different sectors, the private sector, the academia, the productive sectors, and obviously the political sectors. So I think the first lesson learned in this type of processes is that you need to come together, every party, every sector, every actor of the process, so we really can move forward with this. It's not easy. Those are complex projects. But if we can get all the participants to understand, again, that if we get aside politics, this is part of the developments that we need for our country. So we have been working in this process for the last almost 4 years, and we have moved forward very quickly. 4 years, almost 4 years. And this is going to be, I think, the first transportation project in Costa Rica that has, for example, a gender study. That it's so important for us understanding that men and women, we have patterns of mobility completely different, and we wanted to incorporate these type of studies in this process and in this project. Also, I think it's going to be the first time that we move forward in a very orthodox way, moving forward from feasibility studies to value engineering, because we actually move forward with a value engineering prior to move with the feasibility studies. We completed the feasibility studies, and we actually did a peer review for those feasibility studies. It was peer reviewed by a professional team from IDV. It was reviewed by a professional team from INCAE School of Business in Costa Rica, which is a very important one. And it was reviewed by the GCF. So again, it's the first time that we have a project that has completed all the steps, and actually that has been peer reviewed by different organizations, by different institutions. So I think this has provided confidence, and that's the other lesson learned. You need to provide confidence that the project is a solid project, that the process has been transparent, that we have shared all the information. We have been very transparent, not only with the Congress, that we have a process with Congress, because this project needs to have the acceptance from Congress. So there is a huge amount of work in providing information, but mostly in providing information for the citizenship, for the medias, for everybody. We have been very open. We have provided a lot of information. All the studies have been made public. So I think this is why a lot of people in Costa Rica understand that this project, it's important and it's necessary. And we didn't only focus on the electric train for the metropolitan area. Our vision, it's quite integrated vision. And in our national decarbonization plan, several of these actions, the most ambitious one for sure is the electrical train. But the truth is that we have been working in several areas so we can really provide to our communities, to our people, an integrated system, an integrated transportation system. But at the same time, how can we do this pipeline of investments and process where the electric train is the most important? We always have said that because of its scale, because of the impulse that this is going to make in our economy and in our goals to reaching net zero mobility to 2050. This is the most important one. But we are also working with the bus modality system. How can we integrate the bus system into the train system and start creating intermodality system of transportation? We have been working also with local governments to include non-pedestrian mobility in these hubs that we are going to have in the electric train. We have been working also with local governments and the communities on how can we really leverage on this investment with their communities in order for the local governments to get benefit from this investment. And how can we create new use of land tools so we can really reach the potential that it can get in terms of creating investment for the communities? How can we create more public areas? How can we create a different type of community, a different type of cities that we wanted to be more resilient, more pedestrian friendly, and obviously with this type of mobility. So we have been working in several angles with several institutions at the same time. And I believe that this is the only way. It's more complex, obviously, because we have several actors. But I think this is the only way that we can move forward with these type of projects. It's really creating a team, not only in the national government, but also with the local governments, with different actors, being very transparent, very, very transparent, communicate every step of the way, and also understand that the national government cannot make this alone. Not this project, not the goals that we have set ourselves to accomplish for the decarbonization of our economy, not the ambitious, I believe, goals that we are going to try to compromise in these type of events. Local governments cannot make that alone. We really need to understand and start leveraging on private-public partnerships and really incorporate our communities, really incorporate the different sectors so we can really move forward with this. So I believe that a good process, being very transparent, being very responsible, and also understanding that this is for the country's development, getting completely detached, if that is possible, but we really try hard to get detached from politics, really focusing on the technical issues and why this project is as solid and it's going to make as huge impact as we believe it's going to make in our economy, and obviously in the goals that we have for decarbonized our economy. So I think those are the main lessons learned. I do believe, I strongly hope that being this project as good and as solid technically as it is, as we understand that it is, the next administration, it's going to continue and it's going to support this process. Because the next administration, if they want to start from scratch, if they want to start from zero, the truth is that we are going to have not a 4-year delay, but a 8-year, 10-year delay in a development that is urgent for Costa Rica, that it's urgent for our communities, that it's urgent for our economy. To make also Costa Rica more competitive in a very competitive world, in how to attract more investment, private investment, public investment. So I have high hopes that we are getting to a point of no return in this process. And I also have high hopes that the next administration, whoever it is, that it's going to be seated in the presidential chair, it's going to continue with this process, again, because this is a country project, not an administration project. and very positive of the accomplishment, very positive of what we have accomplished in this period of time. And also, I would like to say, and this is very important, that if we want to continue with these goals, not only in the mobility sector of our decarbonization plan, but in all of our sectors, if we really want to accomplish decarbonize our economies, if we really want to accomplish net zero emissions for 2050, we need to find the financing tools for making this happen. And for that, organizations such as GCF is key to do so. And it's quite important to do so. And I think it's an international reference of a way and a financial tool for make this happen. And that is very important. And also the multilateral organizations such as CABEI that are our partners for our countries to find these financial tools to make this process and these projects a reality. And this is going to be key if we want to continue, not only with this ambitious project, with this investment pipeline, but also with different processes that we have, not only in Costa Rica, but in the region. Every country has a different context, and the challenges are very different.